One. Good evening. This is Attorney Vince Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. And tonight, I'm joined by a very special guest, Miss Kay. Miss Kay, how are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing good. How's your Friday evening going?
It's going pretty good. I can't wait for next week.
Well, tell me something. What county and state are you in?
I am in Fresno County in California.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I'm gonna give you a little background because I do have some questions. My case started January 2nd of 2021. Um the so if there's like a sexual allegation going on with my child and the boyfriend that I had at the time, he is a registered sex offender, something that happened, I guess, in 93 or something like that. So what happened was before January, my daughter had made some videos in his phone, and I had seen the videos, and when I saw them, I knew that she had the phone. You know what I mean? So that's, I had handled that situation. So in January, that situation came up again when he called the police because I was moving. And when that situation came up again, the police had decided to put a hold on the kids, a 300 hold on the kids, because neither one of us could leave, and they wanted to investigate him because of his background to make sure, to see if whether he, had anything to do with those videos or not. Even though my daughter did tell the police officer what happened, how the videos got in there, that she did, and all that stuff. So they still wanted to put a hold on the kids. So they did. So since January, I did all that, went to the jurisdiction, disposition hearing, all that stuff. There's been a lot of accusations and things going on as far as with my mom, because my mom has my kids. She's been making a lot of false statements. They had me do parenting class, drug testing, a child abuse class, which is 52 weeks, a Phoenix class, and an outpatient program. It's been basically 2 years now, and I have completed all of the things that they wanted me to do. Now, if we go back to when the case started in January, March is when, before the judge ordered me to drug test, March is when they asked me to drug test. So I tested positive for meth, marijuana, and alcohol. And so that was one time in March. So I told them, I was going through a lot of stuff and all that stuff. So since March of 2021, I haven't tested positive for anything other than alcohol every like once a month, or every 3 to 4 months. So, but other than that, I have done everything they wanted me to do. So in August, I was on unsupervised visits twice. The last time I was on unsupervised visit was last year in about February. So I had a positive alcohol test like in July. So then they took me back to supervised. So when we went to court, we had a contestant hearing for the what do they call that? The 18-month hearing. So I contested that one, and then went to court August 28th. At that time, I was inside of an inpatient program, which I went in myself August 3rd. And because I had asked them to put me in there before, because they kept telling me that I had this alcohol issue, which I never really had an alcohol problem, but they wanted me to complete all these outpatient programs, which I did. Because like I said, I would only test positive for alcohol every one time a month to 3 times once a month, like something like that. So I was able to complete all the things they wanted me to do. So on August 28th, that contestant hearing, they terminated my reunification services. I only had at that time 10 classes left of my 52-week child abuse class. I asked the judge, hey, can I please, can I just let me finish my 10 classes? I'm in an inpatient program now. I already completed an outpatient program. I'm trying to say I don't have an alcohol problem, but this is because I'm testing positive for alcohol. Doesn't matter how long it's been. I understand that. Let me go through this program. This is a 4-month program, and they denied me. So they also reduced my visits. Now at this contested hearing to terminate my unification, I noticed that my mother and my children's lawyer were talking, like basically, it seems like she's representing my mom, not my children. So she goes and tells the judge that my mother is like, hey, I don't want to, even take the kids to the visits, because I got, at that time I was once every week. Every week I went to the visits, and she said, I don't want to take the kids anymore. I want the department to do the transportation, because Kay is just very hostile. And my lawyer at the time, she was a paid lawyer. She did not object to it. She didn't say anything. That was very disappointing to me, because at that point in time, I feel like I should have been able to say, hey, no, that's not true, for the simple fact we are supervised. And any of my visits, they would have some type of paper trail showing that I have been hostile with my mother, but all of my visits have been just fine. There's never been any problems, nothing. But my lawyer did not object to it, or didn't even like fight or say anything about it. So the judge just basically granted me to have once a month visits, supervised, due to the fact that my mom is saying that I'm hostile. So also what happened in August, my daughter, she is 12. I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. My 12-year-old daughter, at that time, we were able to talk to each other, and she did contact me. And she contacted me to tell me that my mom and my father, my stepdad, was arguing, and she was scared. So I was like telling her, like, well, what do you mean? She said they're scared. I asked her where her sister was, and she said she was in the living room with them. I said, go get your sister, take her in the room with you, and you guys just stay there, because I don't know if your sister's scared or what. So she does. And at this time, this was last year in August, at this time in the case, I'm thinking to myself, hey, I want to go ahead and tell the worker, that she reached out to me. And I'm like, if I do, they won't believe me. It'll be a problem. It's going to be some type of issue. So I told my daughter, I said, you always say certain things are going on. And I told you have to tell Melissa. You have to tell them about that. You have to tell the worker or talk to your therapist about these certain things, like that's the best advice I can give her. And I've also told the worker the same thing, that what was going on. So this particular time she contacts our worker. She sends her a video. She texts her. She even sends her a picture of my mom drinking, because my mom was drinking at the time. I know this. I've been telling them this. They won't believe me. They're not listening to me or nothing. So when she does, my worker doesn't say anything to me about it. So then I contact my worker and I ask her, like, what's going on with my kids and my mom? And she let me know, yes, your mom was drinking and stuff like that. We're going to investigate her. And she says, hey, is there anybody else that you could take the kids to? Because we don't feel like, she says she doesn't feel like it's healthy for my kids to be there, due to the fact of everything that's been going on with my mother trying to sabotage my reunification. She's having an issue with meeting up. The third party, like she has some type of issue with something, and she's always bringing up something else that has nothing to do with the case. And they're recognizing that. So I was like, okay, they're investigating her, so I'll wait till the court hearing. When we get to court, they don't mention that my mom's being investigated. They don't mention that she was caught drinking. They don't mention any of that. Not the kids' lawyer, not the county counsel, nobody. So I end up mentioning it, and the judge completely just brushes it off. And so now I'm confused. So they are now, after the contested hearing, obviously they went with the department. So now I'm once a month visits for 1 hour. We already had a CFT meeting. I'm doing the 0.26 permanency hearing now. That was supposed to be in December. We had a CFT meeting, which my daughter hasn't been to any of those. And at the CFT meeting, they talked about guardianship. So the plan that they want to do is a guardianship with my mom, with the discretion to progress to unsupervised, liberal, and up to 14 days if my mom chooses to. So the problem with that is that me and my mom we don't talk that much, and we've been having problems these last 2 years, and I keep telling them that. So I'm trying to push for, either can we have can they keep the case open? Can we have guardianship with dependency to keep the case open for at least 6 months? So that way me and her can do this communication thing, to where we can pick a place that we pick them up once a month. We can figure out what she wants me to do now to progress those visits. That's what I'm trying to figure out at this moment. So, I mean, that's what's going on now. So in December 8th was supposed to be that permanency hearing. The paid lawyer that I had, she told me that she couldn't do, she can't represent me anymore because she was going to be working for the public defender's office or something. So December 8th, we did not have that court hearing. They postponed it till January 19th of this year. So I got a court appointed lawyer. So since I've had that court appointed lawyer, we've talked a couple times. I've sent him proof. I went over the case with him, telling him everything that I want. And I'm telling him, I'm asking him this, is there still a chance to get my kids back? Because, I've done everything they wanted me to do. I know that I tested positive for alcohol. I get that. I understand that. But I don't have an alcohol problem. They want me to get, what do you call that? Sobriety. What do you call that? When you go to AA meetings and you have a sponsor. They wanted me to get a sponsor. When I tried to get a sponsor and I met up with the sponsor told me that, the 12 steps are really not going to help you because you don't really have an alcohol problem and all this stuff. Now, I told them that didn't matter. So since when my mom got investigated before our court hearing in December, they investigated it and they found it to be, like there was no issue. And what I'm hearing from my daughter was that they told my daughter, my daughter told them everything, and they told her that it's okay that she drinks because she's an adult and she's not drinking consistently. So when I brought it up to the department, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I understand that you're drug testing me. I haven't had any type of illicit drugs or and if you guys have a paper trail of my drug tests, you guys know how many times I failed and how many times that I didn't fail. So, and you also know my consistency or my pattern of however I drink. And I don't have my kids at the time, and it's never when I have a visit, it's never before the visit or right after. Like, it's never like that. But my mom is apparent that she's drinking and arguing and fighting, and the kids are scared, and they have my children. But you guys are saying that it's okay because it's an adult thing to do, and she doesn't do it all the time. But you guys have never drug tested her. You don't even know what her consistent drinking is, but I've told you. So that's my issue at that very moment with that. So like I said, I have a court appointed lawyer now. We have been talking. I told him all that stuff, sent them all the things. And I was like, if the judge won't give me my kids back, all I want them to do is at least change it. They can have once a month, but can we have a once a month unsupervised visit? So that way I don't have to worry about figuring out who's going to do the third party or where are we going to meet up, because we can't communicate like that. I can just pick them up, get my kids, because I've never had an issue with my kids. They know I'm really well. I have a whole lot of positive feedback when it comes to me and interacting with my kids, like completely. And so that's what we're shooting for. So about 2 or 3 days ago, I've been contacting him. He hasn't contacted me back, but he did email me, and he emails me a release of counsel due to conflict of client. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. Are we still on?
We're still on.
I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know what that means. I've been contacting him ever since he sent me that email, and he has not responded. He won't answer any of my phone calls. No, nothing. So I did contact my worker because since we had the CFT meeting in December, me and my mother were supposed to be communicating from now until, to try to build that communication up so that way we can figure out what we're going to do, how we're going to do this and that, the other. Well, she hasn't been answering my call. So I contacted my worker. So she was able to get her to call me. My mom mentioned something about my child's father's lawyer, and he might need a lawyer or something. And she didn't know nothing about that. But when I got the email from my lawyer, then I understood, okay, she's talking about my lawyer. So now I'm confused on why my lawyer is saying wants to be relieved due to conflict, and he's not letting me know why, or I don't know what's going on now. So when I talked to my worker about it, and she's like, well, I guess January 19th, they're going to go ahead and redo give us another court date. So to get you another lawyer. So we're not even going to be able to do anything that day. And I was like, okay, so we are well over the 24 months. I feel like I don't know what to do here. But as far as a question I wanted to know is, in this situation, I wanted to have My worker.
Okay, hold on a second. You were going to ask me a question,
Yes, I want to ask you a
and
question.
you are still continuing with the story.
I want to ask a
So,
question about.
okay, let's ask the question. It begins with who, what, where, why, how.
Okay, so
What's the question?
the question is, would it be a good idea to have my caseworker testify at my trial hearing? They're saying that this permanency 2.6 hearing is a trial. I don't know how, but that's what they're calling it. I want to have my worker testify, my old worker, not the adoption worker I have now, my old worker, just to testify on the bond with my children, on the on what she thinks about my kids being with my mother since she's been drinking. You know, I want her to talk about certain stuff. And just I want to know if it's going to be a good idea for me to have my old worker testify. I think that if she does, it
Well,
will look good on my favor. In my
okay.
favor.
Well, the problem is that the worker's not on your side.
Okay.
All right. So, and you don't know what she'll testify to. You might call her thinking she's going to be an 8 or a 9 in testimony, and she might be a 1 or a 2. So it'll make things just dramatically worse. Now, if you knew what she was going to say on the issue of bonding, definitely have her come. And I want to tell you something else. The whole issue about the suitability of your mother to take the care of the kids at a 2-6 hearing, most judges would rule that, in my opinion, irrelevant. That's not the issue of the 2-6 hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now you can make it an issue by filing a 388 petition. Okay. But it's not an issue unless you do that. Now I'm going to give you some information that might be helpful that you should talk to your attorney about. However, let me go back to the story, okay? Because there were some things that you said in your story that kind of alarmed me. And, I thank you for coming on here and sharing your story and being honest.
Mm-hmm.
But, and this is a big but, and I don't agree with it in every circumstance, but if you lose your children at the disposition hearing and the judge orders you to do a substance abuse with testing, and you're still testing positive for illegal drugs and or marijuana and or alcohol, not many judges are going to give you your children back.
Mm-hmm.
And if you appeal it to a higher court, in my opinion, the Court of Appeals is going to say, yeah, you're still testing positive for substances. We're not going to give you your children back.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. I only tested positive once for any other for drugs. Like I've only tested once positive for drugs, and that was in
Cool.
March at the beginning of the case. So I understand.
Okay, you told me that you were tested several times positive for alcohol.
Yes, alcohol. Yes, but I mean, I was saying drugs, like drugs.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know this or not, but alcohol is considered a drug.
Yeah, it can. It definitely can be. But that's the thing. I don't have any issues with alcohol.
Okay.
That's good.
I'm one of the first people in the world that hope that you get your children back.
Right.
But if you keep testing positive for alcohol, you are going to be perceived, and rightly so by the judge, as having an alcohol problem.
Yes. And I see that.
So if you keep saying, I don't have an alcohol problem, and you keep testing positive when you know you shouldn't be testing positive, there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is you're not understanding the system you're in.
Right.
If you test positive for alcohol, in most cases, in most courts around the country, not just in California, you're not going to get your kids back. Period. End of story.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are some things that you can do, and I'm going to tell you. I would prefer that you just listen and don't write them down, because you can go back and watch this video on 8 different social media platforms. It'll be up there forever. Okay, so just listen. Number one, you're going to have to ask the court to do a bonding study. Because one of the defenses to a termination of parental rights is that you have a relationship with the child such that it would be detrimental to the child to terminate your parental rights. Now, the good thing in this case is that they're looking at legal guardianship. They may already recognize that you have a relationship. And here's the other thing, the underlying thing that nobody's talking about. Your mother's probably not a good adoptive parent candidate if she has a drinking problem. But, and lucky for you, they're not moving the kids from your mother. You know, if you bring down hell on your mother, these kids are going to go to a foster home where they will be adopted and you won't see them again. So throwing your mother under the bus is not going to help you get the kids back.
Mm.
Now, you may think it should, but I'm just telling you the law.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know your whole story. All right. I don't know all the facts, but just from what you've told me, you're going to have to quit the grandma bashing because it's not going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to help you one bit, and it could hurt you.
Okay.
So what I think you should do is you should focus on getting your children back. That has nothing to do with the social worker, nothing to do with the judge, nothing to do with the grandma. It has to all to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a drug counselor, nothing. I'm nothing like that. Now, I have had experiences with people that are addicts in my life and in my family.
Mm-hmm.
I lost a son to a drug overdose. So I have a little bit of experience, a little bit of knowledge. And what I think you should do is you should get into a program and test clean, including no alcohol.
Right.
Now, I can tell you how to get your kids back. I can. This is the question, though. Are you going to do it?
Mm-hmm.
And let me just say how this will be perceived by people. You keep testing positive occasionally for alcohol, and you keep saying you don't have an alcohol problem.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, one of the first things you have to do in the 12-step program or any recovery is you have to recognize you have a problem.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you keep testing positive for alcohol and keep saying, well, I don't have a problem, you're nowhere near recovery.
Mm-hmm.
That's how people will perceive it. Whether
Right.
you are or you're not, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not qualified to say that. But I'm just telling you how people, like the judge, like the social worker, perceive it. So that's what you need to do. And if you do it, if you can get this going before the 2-6 hearing, or shortly thereafter, if your mother's going to get guardianship, you can get your kids back. You know, I've seen cases that are not as bad as yours, where they buried the person, the parent, based upon whatever stuff you're doing on the same thing. Okay, I mean, people are going to look at you in the courtroom and say, well, she keeps testing positive for alcohol and she says she doesn't have an alcohol problem. They're going to look at that just so negatively. And look, in reality, you may not have an alcohol problem. I don't know. But that's something that you're going to have to address with some substance abuse counselor and start testing clean. Because at this point in the case, whether it was right, wrong, or indifferent, you're not going to get the kids back unless you prove otherwise. Now, I didn't make the law. I'm just the messenger. After doing thousands of cases, all over the state of California. Okay? So that's the first thing you're going to have to do. Now, I'm looking at you now and I'm thinking, she doesn't look like an alcoholic, doesn't look like a drug addict. But that doesn't mean I'm making the decision. All right. And let me tell you something. I've never been a judge, but I look at these cases as if I were a judge and I try to decide what would the judge say about this or that? And what would the judge do? And unless you do what I suggest to you, I don't think your judge is ever going to give you your kids back. So you have that personal choice. And let me tell you something. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. I acknowledge that.
See that
My,
well commenting on the, getting into an inpatient program,
I
that's
didn't
one
say anything about an inpatient program.
or a program.
Just a program. How about an outpatient program?
I completed two. That's the thing.
Okay, but you're still testing positive. That's the
Right.
thing.
Right. So that's what I'm
So
saying.
so you should be doing something about it. Look, I'm going to share something with you. My son died at the age of 27.
Mm.
I personally had gone with him to two different programs, and I always hoped that it worked. It didn't. So think of that. Think how people perceive you. All right. It's not how you perceive you, it's how the judge perceives you, how the social worker perceives you. Okay. So keep that in mind. And listen, let me tell you something. Grandma may not be the best place. All right. But if you throw her under the bus, that's not going to help you get the kids back. It's not you versus grandma. Don't think that. It's you versus the social worker. And if you throw grandma under the bus, they'll take those kids away from her and they'll put them in some family, who knows where up in Northern California. And this family will adopt them because of the financial incentives, and you'll never see your kids again. You won't even have a chance to get them back by filing a 388 after you finish your drug program. After you have stopped testing, after you started testing clean for everything, including alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, everything's something about perception. Now, do I necessarily agree that what's happening to you is right? No, not really. I don't. But, and here's the big but, what do they perceive inside that courtroom? Look, growing up, I had addicts that were adults in my family. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the ideal situation? No. But did it mean that I should be taken away from my family and put in a strange foster home? No. But this is 2023. They do that stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
They'll do it because they think it's right. They think it's better for the kid.
Yeah.
Having been a child from the age of 3 who grew up without his mother, I can tell you that taking kids away from their parents, especially their mothers, is not a good thing for the kid. Not at all.
Right.
And people don't understand it because they never experienced it. A lot of people grew up without their father, right?
Yeah.
How many people grow up without their mother?
Not many.
Right. And when we put kids in foster home, do you know what percentage of these kids end up in our criminal justice system?
No, I don't.
An extremely high percentage. I forget what the percentage is, but it's extremely high. And I don't know if we just ignore it, if we're just ignoring it, or we really don't want to talk about it. But foster care is not the be all end all cure for the protection of kids
Right.
because there's other shit happening. We just assume, oh, we can put this band-aid on it and it'll be okay. It's not working.
Right.
You know, there's always across the nation news stories almost weekly about some kid in foster care who got abused, sexually abused, who got killed. You
Mhm.
know, are we just not paying attention, or are we just ignoring it because we really don't have an answer
Right,
for our for what's going on here?
right.
Yeah. So it's a very deep question. But I hope I've given you some insight as to what you should do. And I can tell you for sure you control your own destiny.
Mhm. Yeah, I learned that. Yeah.
So you got to
Now,
do what you got to do.
well, so I figured like now it's because okay, so when we had the contested hearing in August, um, August 28th, I was already in the inpatient program. August 3rd, like I went to inpatient program on my own. So when they said they had to find that the department did reasonable efforts to to exonerate the initial removal, at that time, I have so many different times that I asked them in those past 24 months, hey, put me in an inpatient program, so I can just do it that way. I can do all my classes there and I won't have to worry about anything. They told me, no, you don't qualify for an inpatient program
Well,
because you have a place.
well, one of the reasons is it costs more for the county. But here, let me tell you this, okay? And I hope you understand this because I'm not bullshitting you.
Mhm.
These CPS cases, I divide them into modules. Module 1, Module 2, Module 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, you're going to Module 6. And by definition, and I think I did a YouTube video on this, what happened in Module 1, it's over. It's done with. You bringing it up about how you got screwed in Module 1
Mhm.
is a waste of time.
Right,
I'm sorry to tell you that.
right.
Okay, you're so far in your case. You have to focus on the module you're in. See, I talk to people all the day, every day, people from all over the country, all over California, and they're in like module 3 or 4,
Mhm.
but they're telling me about module 1 and how they got screwed. And you know what? It sounds like they did get screwed, but they never appealed module 1 or 2,
Mhm.
and they never, or they did appeal and they lose. So it's over.
Mhm.
Let it go.
Right,
Focus on the now. Focus on getting your kids now. And listen, I didn't tell you to get into an inpatient program. I
right,
told you to get in a program. Now,
right,
if it's going to be inpatient, if that's best for you, some substance abuse counselor will tell you that. I'm not a substance abuse counselor.
right.
I'm just telling you how to win your kids back.
So as of now, like when talking about now, like I said, they already terminated my services in August. We were supposed to have court December, but because I didn't have a lawyer, they had to appoint me one, and they were supposed to be going to court on the 19th. But the new lawyer has wants to be relieved on the 19th, so now I'm pretty sure it's going to get pushed off. They've
Well, that
already
that helps you. Okay, that only helps you, buys you more time if you're in a substance abuse program and
right,
testing.
right. I mean, yes. See, I feel like I got messed up though. I feel like I messed up since the time that they terminated my services
Oh, correct. You were.
because I should have just stayed there. But when the judge told me that it didn't matter whether I was in an inpatient program or not, I was just like, okay. But if I would have just stayed, I didn't know that my lawyer was going to do that. I didn't know I was going to have this much time. I could have.
Right. You could have finished the program.
Yeah, I mean, I finished everything they wanted me to do. I have
Right.
certificates for everything. But I understand that. I totally understand that. So
You
as of
you
today,
you got to
you
keep
know,
testing, and don't ever tell anybody you don't have an alcohol program, alcohol problem,
problem. Hmm.
because even if you don't, based upon the facts you've given me, all they're going to conclude is, oh, she's in denial. She's
Right.
not near the first step of recovery.
Can I
She,
ask a question though, as far as this whole in just dependency period and CPS? I don't. One main concern I just don't understand with CPS and the department and all that stuff. and juvenile dependency is that I understand that the parent is the one that messed up or whatever the case may be. They're the ones that have to go to court and prove that the kids will be safe with them. I understand that. But when they place these children with people, family members, or whatever, it seems like that anything that person may say is true in fact, and they believe them. And if they do find out something about that person, they brush it, they sweep it underneath the rug. And my concern on that is why? Like, why wouldn't it be a concern for this person when they have them? Why isn't it a concern? Like, I don't understand why it's not.
It depends on the social worker assigned to the case. And listen, I'm going to tell you this again, Kay. The fact that the department is looking the other way is actually helping you. Yeah. You think it's a big deal.
Well, I had somebody else I wanted my kids to go somewhere else this whole time.
Is it a relative?
Yes, kind of, sort of. She has my daughter's sister. She's not my blood sister.
The law in the code, it talks about relative placement.
Right.
And certain relatives, like grandmothers, have priority over that second half cousin by marriage.
Okay, got it. Priority.
So what? You have somebody else.
Right. I got it. That's true.
Okay. So come back with me. You focus on what you have to do, not what's going on.
Right.
The past is over and done with. Over and done with.
So as of today, I wanted to ask a future question. This is for the future. Let's just say I go to court and we do the guardianship thing and they close the case down. They told me that I have to wait a year to a year and a half to file a JV 180.
It's not true. Not true.
She has it on like the report or something.
Okay, she is not a lawyer. She is not the judge.
Right.
And I'm telling you, you can file a JV 180, a 388 anytime. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to win.
Right.
Right? Doesn't mean you're going to win, but you can file it anytime. So I tell people this all the time. Don't talk to social workers without your lawyer. You know why? Because social workers will tell you shit that's wrong. Just flat out wrong. Sometimes they tell you wrong stuff because they don't know any better. Sometimes they tell you wrong stuff because knowing that it's wrong, but they want to frame your mind in a certain way. Like here's something I see all the time. There's a detention of the children, and then we're coming up for the jurisdictional and dispositional hearing. The social worker tells the parents, you can't get the kid for at least 6 months.
Yeah.
That's patently wrong. Okay. And I don't know if they're trained to say that or if they're saying it to make them think there's no reason to have a trial. But social workers routinely tell the parents, you have to wait 6 months, just automatically. That is false. Mm-hmm. You can fight to get your kids back at the jurisdictional and or dispositional phase of the case. Let me tell you something. For the social worker to win the dispositional phase of the case, to keep your kids away from you for 6 months, that's the hardest thing in the law for the social worker to win. She or he has to prove by clear and convincing evidence that you're a substantial danger, not a danger, a substantial danger. And there's a second part to that. The social worker has to prove that there are no less restrictive alternatives by clear and convincing evidence.
Right.
You'd have to be one bad MF to lose a contested disposition hearing.
I think I lost it because of the lawyer, that I bought.
You probably didn't even have a trial.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so I can just tell. The county you're in and what you're saying about the case. You could have won your dispositional hearing and gotten your kids back.
Yeah.
Right towards the beginning of the case. But you might have bought in, or your lawyer might have bought in, you can't get your kids back for 6 months.
Yes, she did.
Okay. And if that's the case, if that's the story they're selling, why have a trial?
Right. Yep.
Why have a trial? So these are the things that, I hope people watching this pick up, and talk to their attorneys about. They're very, they're issues, and they're not, things aren't done the way social workers want them to be done. The law is most of the times completely different from what the social worker wants.
Hmm.
But do you think the social worker is there to help you? I'm here to tell you that that is not true. As nice as they treat you,
Hmm.
they are not there to help you, because if they were your friend, you'd have your kid. You you wouldn't be, living without your children.
Right.
Hey Kay, the show's coming to an end. I want to thank you very much for coming on the show and sharing your story. I hope I've given you some information that will help you and your attorney moving forward. Um, and if you'd like, I'd like you to call us back in about a month or two and give us an update on what happened. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
All right. And for everybody watching the video, thank you for joining us tonight, this Friday evening. Don't forget, on Saturday, we'll be on at 9 a.m. And on Sunday, we'll be on at 9 a.m. So we'll see you folks this weekend in the morning. Good night.
Good night.